God damn Ridley, you have to make an Alien movie now. And Ridley's like, okay, have at it, like you said. Here's your fucking Alien.
Because he's a director, and director man directs movies.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
The engineers are as confused as is the audience, trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
I met a traveler from an antique land, Henrik, who said 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, blah, 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 blah. So, Henrik, what are you passionate about?
Well, here's a sound snippet.
Hey, well, that's an actual tangible thing, unlike the movie of today.
Well, if you buy it on Blu-ray or DVD, it's tangible.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah. I catched it on streaming because I've been refusing to actually buy a Blu-ray copy of today's feature.
Henrik, I wonder why.
Why I haven't bought it? Why some people have bought it on their collection, or why are we doing this?
All those 3 questions.
Why I haven't bought it is because I'm not a complete idiot. Why some people have bought it is because they are complete idiots. And why we are doing this is basically because we are turbo blasted retards doing a film podcast, and also because we are desperately trying to buy some time before we actually have to delve into Alien vs Predator movies.
Oh no. Well, yeah. Well, being the lunatics that we are, that just might come to be at some point. But
it's not a complete franchise retrospective without a complete franchise.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of little spin that happened on the franchise that Ridley Scott is not so interested in. Also, he's not very interested in the Alien sequels, the actual sequels. But hey, yeah, it's a cluster of a bunch of vaginas.
They can actually, one of today's biggest, or today's episode's biggest questions would be, like, to take a note from you, like, what actually Ridley Scott is interested about? Because, like, as a person who once again, or once more, did the unthinkable and they actually committed to listen through Ridley Scott's commentary track for the bloody film, which is a stunt that I usually try to avoid, due to the fact that Ridley Scott typically really just is the most boring commentary host that you just can have for any film, especially for his own movies. The dude's commentary tracks, most of the time, tend to be just the guy just hosting his movie through, just like describing his entire film, instead of really talking about the process of making it. But there are usually always like 3 to 5 good snippets. Things that Ridley Scott just lets slip by and doesn't seem to completely realize what he has just said. And one of those snippets in Covenant's commentary track would be the fact that Ridley Scott really isn't interested in most of the movies that he makes. He feels that the films altogether and the stories altogether, they no longer have anything really new and groundbreaking to present. So Ridley is not really interested or about them or in them. The one exception that Ridley mentions, and this is now during the time when Covenant came out, would be The Martian. But he says that on Covenant's commentary track, which hints kind of towards the possibility that Ridley Scott didn't really care about Covenant all that much. That he didn't feel that there was anything new and anything exciting in making the Covenant. He just did it.
Yep.
Because he's a director, and director man directs movies.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. At the same time, nothing surprising there. Although, if you look at the speeches that he gives in his average interview, he would be somewhat actually excited about the franchise or making movies, because he really likes to explain and build all these mythologies. But at the same time, you get a kind of picture of a director who perhaps has done a few too many.
Yeah, and it's not just Ridley Scott's own words that I'm leaning in when I'm proposing the question, like what Ridley Scott really is interested about. I do also think that, or I am also seeing it very strongly in Covenant. Like, I don't feel passion from Ridley's end. I kind of still felt that when watching Prometheus, that is a movie that Scott really wanted to make. But watching Covenant, it always has felt for me like Ridley Scott is basically just microwaving, yesterday's leftovers.
That's kind of the thing. This movie is all over the place, and there's so many cooks with the same blender. So it's like halfway through maybe a Ridley movie, then the other half maybe like a Fox Studios movie. So clearly the film is not quite in the right place. What Ridley Scott has stated in interviews, he's interested in doing 560 different sequels to this movie with the Michael Fassbender in mind, and the androids. Xenomorphs, nah.
And that is evident. That much is evident. It's like this is most of all. This is like Fassbender movie.
This is a Fassbender movie. He has gotten a lot of good words for his performance here, and evidently the guy can perform. It's just that I think the thing is that with Prometheus' success and all that, people were excited to see Ridley Scott return to the director's helm. They were interested what he would do with the Alien franchise. And probably they were moderately interested in what kind of backstory he would create for Alien. But at the point of Alien Covenant, I feel like now it's time for the audiences to go back to the actual real Z's Alien movie, which he doesn't want to deliver in this Alien franchise. So there's this Ridley Scott thing that he wants to create. Like you said in the previous episode, looks like Ridley Scott clearly wants to do his sci-fi film, whereas the studio wants to make an Alien film.
Yeah. And the kind of downer thing with Covenant, in my opinion, and to actually say something in Ridley Scott's defense here, is the fact that I always have felt that Covenant, when it came out, it got kind of a raw deal from the audience's perspective. Like you mentioned that Ridley Scott was still riding some type of wave following Prometheus. But my recollection of basically the coming out of Covenant is a bit different. Because for me, what I sensed in film circles and in the reviews that I usually follow and the ones that I checked out when Covenant came out, what I got a sense of was some type of a bitterness from the audience's end. Like for me, how Prometheus Covenant narrative, that the audience narrative have kind of shaped out or looked like, was that when Prometheus was coming out, everybody was super hyped about it. It was Ridley Scott, the creator of Alien. He's returning back to his franchise that he created, the monster he created. It's going to be good. It's going to be fan-fucking-tastic. Then the film comes out, and we get the kind of Star Wars Phantom Menace effect going on, where for the first year after the movie, everybody is still like, that was one of the best films I've ever seen. It was in a lot of top 10s, best movies, and like the early reviews were very positive. And then when it started to come for the lists of the worst movies of the year, all of a sudden Prometheus would start to show up also. Some of those positive YouTube reviews, they would mysteriously start to disappear from YouTube, and the same reviewers would start to kind of form a different type of narrative where they would more bring out now that how they were hesitant towards Prometheus, how they saw some merit in it, but they mostly were critical of the film. And I kind of saw, like, I also was sensing that kind of a delayed disappointment with Prometheus, also not just in film critics but also in audiences. So when Alien Covenant finally rolled up, I saw this extremely hostile reaction to the film, and I do kind of believe that is kind of a delayed disappointment from Prometheus. Like, everybody was so hyped about Prometheus that just much like Phantom Menace when it came out, it just slipped past everybody's radars. Everybody was telling to themselves that it was really good, and when the realization eventually hit, it was too late to crucify Prometheus, so they went on and they double crucified Covenant. And I have felt that perhaps that toxicity and that level of, bringing the nails, bringing the boards, let's hang this bastard up high, was perhaps a bit over the top or, too much. I'm not saying that Covenant is a good film, but, perhaps just one round of crucifixion would have been satisfactory.
Yeah, I think what happened with Prometheus was that people went to audiences to see it, and they couldn't quite figure out what to make of it at first. They were like, oh, okay, yeah, Alien in last shot, hey, kinda cool ending, ha ha ha. Let's go home and watch it on home video and then put it on the worst movies of the year list later retrospectively. Alien Covenant, on the other hand, at least on the critic sides, at least initially, it got pretty favorable reviews as well, but went downhill pretty fast as far as I can muster to figure out. So double crucifixion. Funny to talk about crucifixion, Henrik. We're back to, discussing how much crucifixion or mythology we find here, way less than in Prometheus. In many ways, Alien Covenant is a similar movie and has hella less of the whole mythology that we had in Prometheus. As a background, Ridley was planning for at least 2 sequels for Covenant. Alien Awakening, at least at one point, was the one that would have then superseded Covenant. So you can't really fault Ridley Scott for not having ideas. I mean, the guy was full of ideas. I don't know how good they could have been, but dude was really, at least in one interview, committed to, he said something akin to, well, if you want a franchise, okay, I'm here. Let's do it. I'm ready for 6 sequels if you want them.
I'm kind of hesitant with that. Basically on all fronts. First of all, I'm hesitant on how much ideas Scott really had. Scott has stated that the sequel for Covenant was written already before, or it did exist in, I don't know in which draft version. Scott has never actually iterated on that, but he has stated that the sequel would exist on paper already when Covenant came out. So, coming from the man himself, the next story would have been already thought out. I think at the same time, at this point, it's obvious that, Covenant sequel is not going to happen. He's not going to get his 2 to 6 sequels to this mess.
No.
Which kind of lends me the question that, seeing how Covenant has gotten, and, retroactively also Prometheus, has gotten quite a lot of flack, and Ridley has gotten a lot of flack for his misstep here with the franchise. And, you would think that Scott would be driven to kind of prove himself, to prove his vision for the audiences. once more to go and show that no, it was not just a brain fart, but this was actually going to be something really epic and mind-blowing, then why just not release the script? And why don't just prove all us naysayers wrong? Like, obviously, yeah, you can't get the film. The studio has already crossed that one over. But, it exists on the paper. So just, print it on PDF and put it on web page. Everybody would love it. And, most likely want to have your children's again, Ridley Scott. So why not do it? And one of the reasons why I do think that he hasn't done it, really, well, one part, in my opinion, is bitterness that I sense a hell of a strongly from Covenant. But the second problem or the second reason I am guessing is behind here would be the fact that Ridley, even though he states that the story was planned out for the sequel, it really wasn't. And that comes to the whole that Ridley saying that he has all these ideas. I do think that Ridley has concepts.
Yeah.
But I'm not confident that he actually has full ideas where to go there. And on that notion, Ridley also has confessed that he didn't have it already planned out, the transitioning from the Prometheus to Covenant when Covenant came out, or when Prometheus came out. Like there is this major narrative that Ridley Scott had planned out and thought out this epic science fiction beast of 75 parts, and it would all exist in his head, just waiting to come out of his fingertips. And that was kind of the bandwagon that everybody was humping on when Prometheus came out. Just wait for the sequel. Ridley Scott has planned this one out. But when Covenant came out, Scott let it slip out that he hadn't actually planned it out before he started to think about what Covenant is. So Prometheus, it didn't end on cliffhangers on accident or as some type of grandiose mega narrative structure exercise. It ended up on cliffhangers because Ridley Scott really didn't have... When the end credits started to roll on Prometheus, Ridley Scott hadn't come up with the answers. And that was disappointing for me because I was so suspecting that was the case when I first time saw Prometheus. I was 100% certain that Ridley Scott hadn't figured it out. But I just wanted to believe everybody who was telling me that, no, Ridley Scott has. It's all figured out. Then under Covenant, he accidentally confesses that no answers here, man.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how good of a thing it could also be a good thing, but Lindelof is no longer on board as a scriptwriter. And interestingly, he said that, well, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm interested in doing it. If Ridley Scott will ask me for it, well, it's hard to turn it down, but I think some fresh blood could take over from this project. Yeah, with all these little ends that or just these propositions for a plot that I created and left hanging in the air at the end of Prometheus, things that he most likely hasn't figured out himself either.
Yeah, Lindelof's exit from the project total was surprising for me also. I would have, when Covenant came out, I was certain that I would see Lindelof's name on the script. I would have thought that, Ridley Scott would have kept him in team. I don't exactly know. I haven't been able to find out why Lindelof is no longer here. I do have my own suspicions. One thing that I suspect is that Lindelof was not on the same page with Ridley. And this is a theory that revolves a hell of a lot around Michael Fassbender's character David. It's obvious when you watch Prometheus, especially when you watch Covenant, that Ridley wants to toy with this idea of AI sentience, like self-thinking AI. And that's something that Lindelof was not willing to actually do in Prometheus. It creates a weird mix-up, because Ridley Scott's end of making the film Prometheus almost very severely, in my opinion, it shows that David is self-thinking robot. But Lindelof, on his own words, has stated that most definitely is not the case, and the whole idea would be ridiculous because an android is not capable of self-thought. Android will only follow its programming, in other words, do what it's being told to do. So in Lindelof's perspective, David's actions in Prometheus are not his own, but what Peter Weyland is telling him to do. And that's all. And that's most definitely, that obviously is not really Scott's point of view. So that may be one thing why Lindelof is not here. But it's highly possible that Scott just, was like, you said what, and kicked him out of the project in order to, craft his David Android storyline. The second thing that might be at play here is that now that we know now that we have evidence that Ridley Scott hadn't planned out the answers for Prometheus beforehand, I have, this is kind of a pet theory of mine, but I have been suspecting that Ridley Scott wanted to make an Alien script, but he wanted to, he got interested about the first Alien script that was presented to him, but he wanted to make it more grand. He wanted more of the deep philosophical questions there, but he couldn't find answers himself. So he contacts the biggest mystery man on the scene, which would be David Lindelof, the man who has just come off from Housing Lost and is working with Abrams and is part of Abrams's script writing group, meaning that, that mystery box bullshit is going on. So he contacts Lindelof, because Lindelof is a mystery man. No, most certainly Lindelof can craft some answers to Scott's questions. And then, unfortunately, it turns out that Scott never actually watched out Lost's infamously bad last episodes, and didn't realize that now Lindelof actually can't craft any answers to his mystery plots, and neither can Abrams. So, it's just, all of a sudden, Scott also realizes that, Lindelof is not the answer man. And that could also be like why he is quietly kicked off from the project.
There's a lot going on here. If we just jump into something that the co-writer here in Covenant said, Dante Harper, he said that Covenant was supposed to be an alien story, but it is also about creators and their creations, and there is this David story that sort of mimics the whole alien story itself and the engineer story. Yeah, that's true, and in many ways Alien Covenant does the same plot beats. As much as Dante Harper wants to go back to the mood and atmosphere of the original Alien, I think you can get some of it here, like kind of the build-up on the ship, on the way to check out this foreign world, what is awaiting us. Very much kind of like what Prometheus actually did. But they land on this foreign planet and start investigating, find some alien life forms, get fucked, try to get back to the ship, everything goes to hell. In many ways, it's the repetition of Prometheus without the mythology.
It's also quite a bit of repetition of Alien. Like we have shots from Alien, we have dialogue from Alien, and we have actually quite many plot points from Alien.
We do. In many ways, that's a problem, and that's a hindrance to whatever the hell you're trying to do. Of course, we already know, like I think I said in the Prometheus episode, we already know what the eggs are doing. We know how the xenomorph would act, unless it's some kind of a protomorph, as supposed to be in this movie. But the point is that we're waiting for someone to get, egg-faced here. We know how that works. So it's a little bit of we've seen that already. This is a little bit forced from Ridley, or there's nothing there, except that we are getting the revelation, not really, that David is out there to create. We know what he's up to. There's nothing really to tell a story with the whole scene of getting face-huggered.
Well, we kind of know what he's up to. Well, we know it to the limit that actually these movies give David capability to actually be up to anything. David is out there. He wants to create. He wants to be God. Well, we don't know really how, where, and in what form. Like, does he ever plan to return to Earth or anything like that? Or does he just want to run his weird science experiment with xenomorphs?
I think it's not so relevant. What I think is relevant is what Dante Harper really said. It's also about creators and their creations. So yeah, it's kind of like this chain event. We have the creator creates a thing, then the thing gets too intelligent or is just too destructive, so the creator must get rid of it. All the way up to the chain, this whole thing happens. It's first the engineers that create supposedly humans, then the humans become a spacefaring civilization, try to infiltrate the areas where the engineers are residing. They don't seem to very much be a fan of that thing. Also, they have made other creations that should not have been created from the perspective of the engineers, if we go back to the whole Prometheus a little bit. Where engineers have also engineered at least the black goo stuff, which has catastrophic results. No one really knows what kind of results you will get out of it, but it manipulates the DNA, usually catastrophically. So works as a weapon, blah, 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 blah. So something that the creator did was wrong. It's this cycle that repeats. Now David wants to be above the food chain, wants to destroy the humans and create whatever he's creating. Interestingly, David wants to prove that he can create life, and then he decides to bank on this most parasitic monster that has ever been created, the one that has the ability to destroy entire ecosystems beyond humans. So I guess in a way that further emphasizes what Prometheus wanted to do. That's it.
Well, what was it that Prometheus wanted to do?
Prometheus wanted to tell the audiences that the creator created a fucked up thing, and now the creator wants to destroy it. Something that you can connect to Greek mythology. Not an expert on any level on that, but it appears that there were little feuds between the gods. When I believe Prometheus was a god who...
Titan.
Yep. Okay, Titan or Prometheus, one of them gave humans the knowledge and all these kind of things, and then Zeus and a bunch of other gods were like, no, don't do that. And now the human creations became a little bit more earthly and grounded and less interested about gods and giving them offerings and whatnot. So that pissed off the other gods. So that's what I believe Prometheus is trying to allude. Hey, I'm a smart movie, I have Greek mythology in me.
But then again, David never actually wants to destroy his creation. Like, the engineers obviously do, it's never actually explained why, but David has no such ambitions. So it doesn't really Covenant doesn't really manage to kind of circulate Prometheus's point.
What it does though, it just circulates this theme of we have a creation. Somebody tries to rise above the gods, so to speak. Somebody wants to be that sort of Antichrist, Satan, or the ungodly. Someone who goes beyond his, limits.
Yeah, I also don't know if David goes beyond his limits.
In a way that he is supposed to serve man, but then goes rogue.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah.
So not abiding their masters anymore.
Not abiding his masters. No, but as a creator himself, I do think that those same judgments don't apply to David. Like as a creator, David doesn't really go against his limits. He goes against his limits as a creation, serve man, and he stops serving man. But as a creator, he doesn't really reach his limits because there is no. With Peter Weyland, there was obvious fall through his creation. Somehow that conversation with the engineer that David had led into Peter Weyland having his fucking head caved in. And if we take a possible theory that the engineers' black goo fired on their faces in Prometheus, in that case, yeah, the engineers on planet LV, now what was it?
223.
223. Well, in that case, yeah, their creation would have also they would have gone against their limits as creators, and their creation, the black goo, would have destroyed them. It's not confirmed, but let's take that fan theory, sure. But with David, he never actually faces this moment where his creation would actually destroy or even turn on him. So in that sense, like the creator David doesn't, in my opinion, really like face his limits and get his comeuppance in the arms of his creation.
No, but he's programmed to protect Weyland and help Weyland. One could argue that he takes Weyland to the engineer because he wants to get rid of Weyland. Ultimately, he doesn't have to do it exactly per se by himself, but the engineer takes care of it for him, so he can be now free. He doesn't have to follow Weyland. He is kind of without any further commands or restrictions, let's say. Limit may not be the greatest word to use here. What I mean with limit is that he has overreached. He is not doing what he was designed to do. He is going behind his masters.
But that is only as a creation where that overreach happens. As a creator, David is still untouchable. Because his creation actually never harms him. So his creation works. Unlike the black goo for engineers and David the android for Peter Weyland.
Yeah, sure. It's just that, like David states that the humanity is a dying and unworthy species, and that his designed creature is the perfect organism that will eradicate them. If you want to apply some logic into what David is doing, I think there is none. These kind of statements in any sci-fi just make very little practical sense. So you admire a monster that's not good for any intellectual pursuits, for whatever reason.
Well, but again, that is Weyland Yutani throughout the franchise.
Yeah. Like, let's see a xenomorph riding Frédéric Chopin's Raindrops. Huh? Does it work, David? All those things that you so dearly love. So is this movie is about David turning against Frédéric Chopin? Is that it?
You lost me on Chopin.
Well, in Prometheus, David is listening to Frédéric Chopin's Raindrops. He appreciates all this human-made art. He watches movies, Lawrence of Arabia, and quotes the movie and listens to a lot of music, and then decides to turn on his creators, because fuck those guys that created all that art for me that I pretend to so much care about.
Yeah, I have never read too much into that, because like coming from the original script, also coming from what some have said about the final script of Prometheus, David it's been strongly alluded to that David has basically always looked down upon mankind. So in that sense, David enjoying movies or Chopin would be basically just like, you admiring cave paintings. Certainly, yeah, they look nice, but, done by some pretty primitive dumbasses. And the more basically heavier question when it comes to David as a creator, I would say is the question of if is the xenomorph that David now has engineered, is it really a perfect organism? And would it really be the perfect weapon to destroy humanity and see humanity to its twilight years? Certainly, yeah, the xenomorph does possess the capabilities of wiping out entire ecosystems, but as it comes obvious from that scene where David air bombs the possibly engineer civilization, we don't actually know who those guys were for 100% certainty, but apparently just airdropping that black goo shit actually would be even more effective destroyer of ecosystems than xenomorph. Well, so he's basically, David just has it engineered the second best humanity wiping out toy.
Well, hey, let's bring more bullshit on board, shall we? From Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott, who apparently was interested in creating the whole backstory about aliens being these weapons and how they were developed. Apparently, according to him, he wanted to do that from pretty much the beginning. The thought might have occurred to him during the filming or the working on the original Alien, but he never got the opportunity to go there. Now he has like 2 movies at least chance of proving his story and showing it, even though I guess he wasn't really interested in doing that after all, because he made Prometheus, which wasn't entirely about that whole back story as much as it was its own thing, standalone movie. Anyway, yeah, Ridley wanted to do something like that. So which one is it really? A perfect organism in what way? How do you define a perfect organism? Or the most catastrophic organism that you can unleash on a planet, because it would actually destroy the entire ecosystem. I think it would fuck up the entire ecosystem even worse than humans have the capability of if given the chance. They would eat everything.
I don't know. I would say that xenomorph leaves the rest of the ecosystem untouched. It just kills basically all the meat-based life forms and replaces them with, with more xenomorphs. So humans would all die, and dogs would get wiped out, and cows would all die as seen in, or oxes as we see in Alien 3. But, trees, flowers, bees, butterflies, all those would be unharmed. The main question would be, of course, like what would be the large-scale natural devastation that, killing all the dogs, cats, and oxes would have for the ecosystem. But if that wouldn't be too drastic, like too bad effect, well, in that case, like all the plant and bee and bug-based parts of the ecosystem, they would still stay intact.
Yeah, I'm not a biologist by any stretch, but you would imagine that if you have something on the size of Alien and they would eat out all the meat-based or similarly sized creatures, there would be nothing left for them to eat except each other. So much for the intelligence of that species. I think there wouldn't be much for conservation.
But do these dumbasses actually eat?
Yeah, do they eat? The dumbasses are so dumbass that they just kill.
I'm not now that I've proposed the question, I'm not 100% certain. Was there a scene in Alien 3 or Resurrection where somebody is munching on a corpse?
In Alien 3, in the corridors, when they're trying to lock the bastard in the lead works, there's something where he seems to be taking his good time munching on the body. I'm not sure if it's eating or just having fun.
Okay, yeah, so they are meat eaters.
I guess. Occasionally eating a little bit, but leaving the rest to rot, I would presume.
Yeah, they eat like once in 3 films.
Yeah. And having fun the rest of the time. But so...
Most likely, yeah, you are correct. Alien, like, the xenomorphs, in the end, they would just, face mass starvation. Or then they would just, resort to cannibalism. Goddamn dumbasses.
Yeah, so exactly. So, weapon. Ridley says that... I think Ridley has seen way too many Jurassic Park sequels, but a weapon... a weapon to who and who's gonna control that weapon? All those questions. Ridley was interested in doing more movies about this, but I don't know if it's going anywhere. Like you said, I think it's on the concept level, and that's it.
Yeah, but one part of me would really want to trust Ridley Scott here, and just be 100% on board that Ridley Scott. He really had all this planned out and would have been magnificent. Goddamn 20th Century Fox for not giving him the boxes to the dough to actually, materialize on his dream. But then again, having been burned now twice, once in Prometheus and second time in Covenant, I just can't find that good faith in me.
Yeah.
And also, when it comes to that notion that Ridley Scott had somehow always planned the scene David airbombing the engineers with black goo stuff.
Oh, let's stop there because this is not the promised land yet. This is the Planet 4, the kind of a gas station break on the way where Shaw and David stop by and David releases the black goo. But you see on the film that these are some kind of different creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So there seem to be some kind of a creation from those goddamn engineers who are just goofing around and creating things.
It kind of looks like that. The only reason why I am even 1% hesitant is because, like in the deleted scene of Prometheus where we see more than one engineer in that opening, it hints to the possibility that not all engineers were the Kratos-like 16 app muscle men that, that the only 2 engineers that we see in the theatrical cut were. And that possibility that some engineers would also be quite slim, not muscular, and have old man faces, it kind of would lean in for the possibility that the planet that David airbombs in Covenant, they could have been engineers. Then again, if you follow the theatrical cut, well, those guys on the airbombing planet, they don't look anything like the engineers in Prometheus. So, like you said, I have always wondered who actually David in the end ends up airbombing.
Hard to say because they are turned into burned pieces by the end.
Mm-hmm.
Not talking much, but looks like David is approaching some type of a ridiculously huge town square, and people have gathered there because they are detecting the ship on the sky, and it's as if they are waiting for their god to arrive. Then again, now that I think about it, those guys are also wearing those little hoodies that the engineers are wearing. Maybe just because of appreciation towards their religion, the engineers, or not.
Yeah. Well, it once again like the deleted scene question. Like in the deleted scene of Prometheus, you see the hoodies. If you go with the theatrical cut, the engineers mostly just had like those highly technical jumpsuits.
But in any case, this little flashback tells you how much David appreciates creations that he has not created or some lesser creations. He just bumps them out of the way so he can go work in his lab with apparently very sophisticated equipment because he can get the job done all alone.
Well, in David's defense, he did that because he had learned the engineer's secrets. Whatever the hell that meant. But that somehow was supposed to be an explanation for the whole air bombing. To make this whole matter even more confusing, Ridley Scott has also confirmed that first of all, that whole air bombing scene, originally it wasn't in the script, so it's a kind of a later add-on. Ridley Scott only invented that whole shit, later on during the production of Covenant, and if his statements that he had planned out the sequel for Covenant, or plans would exist, then Ridley Scott has been adamant that the plot of the Covenant sequel would have been that the engineers now arrived to the David air bombing planet to check out what the hell has actually happened there, and would start their own investigation on who has air bombed this planet. And there's a possibility that they would then start to chase after David.
Or
something would happen.
That would follow. I have it somewhere in my notes, but there was the suggestion that the next movie would go into chase of David. The engineers would be chasing David.
And that could actually finally be somewhat interesting to see. At this point, most likely Ridley Scott would manage to somehow screw it up. But there's a possibility for a exciting sci-fi thriller story where the engineers would try to lay a trap for David, and David would have to somehow, find his way around the engineer's trap, and perhaps David could be hiding in some planet where there's a large vegetation, and engineers would send a hunting team after him, and there would be a lot of possibilities where you could take that premise. The engineers are now hunting after David. Most likely Ridley Scott would screw it up, but the premise has promise.
Well, what kind of premise has promise is what Ridley Scott has alluded to, that, in the later sequels of his, there is the possibility that you have now the technology to use CGI, so you could bring Sigourney Weaver's Ripley back to the story. And she is, of course, somebody's daughter, so you could go from there. I'm excited.
Well, then again, Scott kind of would be hard-pressed to actually do it. Ridley Scott almost would have to bring Ellen Ripley into the sequel. Because if these are supposed to be some type of prequels to Alien, Scott himself, to my understanding, hasn't even today hasn't completely made his mind, are these prequels, are these spin-offs, or what the hell these movies are. But if these would be prequels to Alien, in that case, the time frame from Prometheus to Alien, it starts to get incredibly thin. There are...
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly when it was that Alien took place.
Well, Alien, is it now only 18-something odd years?
It's something, it's almost in, like the Nostromo incident, it's almost at the door at this moment.
Imagine all this hullabaloo happening, and apparently the Nostromo crew not knowing anything about it. They go investigate.
Yeah, and not having any idea that, there's an extraterrestrial life.
There must be a good reason for that.
I guess David airbombs basically the whole galaxy and kills everything else except humans, because he loves humans so much so that he makes damn sure that they get to live.
It's because I got it, Henrik. It's David telegraphing to Ash that don't tell anyone about this on Nostromo. Complete radio silence.
It actually turns out that Ash is a David's quote-unquote son. David builds Ash so that Ash can try to smuggle the xenomorph to David, because it's not really Weyland-Yutani who is trying to get his hands on xenomorph, it's just David.
And meanwhile the engineers are just happily looking from afar how this shit show ends up.
Yeah. The engineers are as confused as is the audience, trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
God damn it. Something that I forgot to mention earlier, further alluding to the Greek mythology, is something that David says, doesn't everyone want their parents dead? This is from Prometheus. So that could be the kind of younger generation's resentment towards parents, as in the case of Prometheus and his ungodly amount of children. But anyways, let's talk about something fun like the goo spores. Because I hate them as a story element. I generally hate these kind of things that have like... These are the kind of non-entity entities that attack you very easily. Is very CGI-ish. Are you a friend of goo spores?
No, I thought it was... First of all, I usually don't like the concept. There are some goo spores stories that, in my opinion, have worked relatively well. But when it comes to most typical of cases, I don't like that concept.
Yeah.
Because the concept that you have something plant-based, which now would magically have pretty sophisticated intelligence, or then some type of like plant DNA-based attack mechanism. Because once again, these spores, not only do they manage to kind of come together and form a semi-shape, which they then hold, they also somehow are capable of navigating into a human's ear, into the ear canal, and then drilling into there. So it's almost like they are sentient. And that has always kind of like, that's like too fantastic altogether. And I don't like them in Covenant, because I feel that it's extremely lazy way to get the story actually going. Like fuck all happens on the planet that they land on, until one guy accidentally steps on the spores, and then the other guy goes and starts to, fingering the spore plants and gets a faceful dose of them. And that's the point where the story actually starts. And that's incredibly lazy, and that somehow is even more stupider than what happened in Prometheus. Like, this is the case where, had they actually had the helmets on, the whole story actually would not have happened.
Exactly. I guess we have to talk about why are they so stupid in this episode. There's so much stupidity that happens.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, you can take historically so many different sci-fi stories where these creatures go on an alien planet and they don't have any masks on, and they have measured the atmosphere and it seems quite breathable in fact. But they don't account for any of those regional contaminants like little spores popping about. And
Or bugs, bees, mosquitoes.
Yeah, none of that matters. And the general idiocy of the crew, of course, Danny McBride is adamant that he wants to go through the clouds and risk all the 2,000 plus inhabitants on board. Like, he cares only about his wife, initially anyway. Then he doesn't care about wife because wife is already dead, or maybe cares about the wife's corpse, I don't know. Goes through the cloud and risks everyone's life. This is mind-bogglingly stupid, of course. And then the first lander that lands, they blow up the whole lander in a panic. Apparently no one was given instructions not to panic when there's an alien creature on board or any kind of... I mean, of course you would be panicking a little, but to the level that you actually start shooting with some grenades, some gas bottles or what the hell is going on there. Oh ho ho ho. Yeah, so it's basically fuck the tolerances is the key phrase here. Can we ever get a believable space crew? Like, I think even David is stupid in this movie. But that's my personal opinion about his whole xenomorph creation and not caring about the other creations. But okay, maybe with his IQ of extremely dangerous levels, he would go a little nutty in the head, and yeah, all that comes with the baggage.
Yeah. When it comes to the stupidity of Covenant, now I haven't done the exact math. Which film, Prometheus or Covenant, which one has more individual stupid decisions and stupid moments from the characters? Both films are pretty damn egregious on this department. Nobody here does the Vickers runs away from a rolling spaceship carcass in a straight line, and Holloway avoids it because she stumbles and falls over. Number that we saw in Prometheus. And already in Prometheus episode, I went on and I stated that I don't necessarily have a problem with, stupid character moments. Those kind of have to happen in stories. I get that. But just like Prometheus, Covenant does the exact same bloody problem, which drove me to the walls in a previous episode, which is that it can't help itself from precisely pinpointing exactly how increasingly stupid these characters are. The whole premise of the film already, like I could kinda see them, just going into an alien planet without the protective gear, and just going into an alien planet to check out a weird transmission. It's basically the same thing that they do in Alien, except in Alien they are under orders to check it out, and there is also the added bonus of them perhaps, benefiting financially from the findings that they make. So there's an explanation why they do follow weird signal into a strange alien planet. Covenant does not have this explanation, but I could swallow that. I could be fine with this dumbass decision. But, of course, Covenant just can't have them landing on the planet. No, before that, they have to make a point that there has just been, was it a solar burst or solar flare, going off right next to the bloody ship, which almost fries the sails, harms the ship, kills its captain, and the fresh captain makes the point that they can't stay there. He actually makes the point that they can't give the burial treatment to those who have fallen, because they have to get out of the sector before the next burst. Kinda makes sense. I would say make the case that the time is not that limited, but I can see the reasoning. But then they get the weird signal, and then the same captain who has been adamant that they have to get out of the sector before the next possible burst happens, decides that no, let's park the whole ship here and go inspect the planet. Well, that's extremely dumb, because you have had 2 scenes to exactly, telegraph to the audience how bad that sector currently is. But then also the movie makes the added decision to tell you that there are 2,000 colonists, including babies and embryos, on that ship. So the new Captain Graham is not now just, studying a weird signal coming from an alien planet. He's actually, playing Texas Hold'em with 2,000 lives.
Yep.
And that already, is like incredibly stupid. But then we get into his like reasoning why to do this, and the reasoning is that the scanners show that it is similar. Its atmosphere is similar to the planet that they are heading on. But still, that planet where the signal is coming from, that's not the planet that they have studied. It's not the planet that they have prepared for. Mm-hmm. It's not the planet that those 2,000 colonists have actually decided that they are going to colonize. Mm-hmm. And like I said, since they don't have the information on the planet, they don't know if there are aerial pathogens or anything dangerous, on that planet. And yet, fucking Graham, god damn, decides that no, we are going to scout the planet out in case that, we just ditch the plan that everybody has agreed on and just set our colony here. And that is like, once again, that's not a stupid character moment. That is stupid character moment, and once again, the film just holding my eyeballs as hostage and forcing me to actually pay special attention to exactly how stupid this moment is. And those are the mistakes that continue to happen here. I would be okay with the moment when was it now Ferris who shoots the gas tanks in the lander and exposes the whole ship to smithereens. I could kind of like see that, tries to shoot the neomorph dodges, hits the gas tanks. Lander lands. Stupid character moment, but I can kind of live with that. But the problem that I have is that has preceded by the scene where the quarantine procedures are being established, and she actually makes a relatively smart move when she refuses to open the door for Ferris, due to quarantine risk. Like, yeah, certainly dramatic moment, but, kind of makes sense. But then she decides to actually go chase for the rifle or the shotgun, and decides to open the doors and thus breaking the said quarantine procedures. And that has preceded by and is now followed by a character slipping in a puddle of blood. And then having her own angle broken by the closing door, and then proceeding to jump, over the stairs with the set and landing on the said broken angle. So once again, like it's not just that a stupid character misses neomorph and accidentally explodes gas canisters. That I could live with, but it's preceded by like 5 other stupid ass mistakes. 2 which are incredibly hilarious. That is the constant slipping on a blood puddle, and also breaking your own goddamn angle with a closing door. So like the film, just like Prometheus, Covenant is relentless on highlighting you how stupid these characters are, and that is the reason why the stupid character moments in Covenant are a problem for me.
And I think it's very telling that Michael Fassbender's David is the only character that people will remember from this movie, right? So the other characters are either alien meat or nobody remembers them, some for the reason that they are so goddamn stupid, whereas Ripley was an intelligent woman, and, I think there was more character building, whatever there was. Not much, but still likable characters somehow. Many of these are just forgotten.
The character building in Alien, if you contrast that to the one in Covenant, in Alien it's almost Dostoevsky levels of good, because Alien Covenant, it has one of the weirdest and also worst characterizations I've seen quite some time in major Hollywood blockbuster. This is kind of like even Michael Bay doesn't do this bad of a job. With his main characters. There's almost no characterization for these characters at all. Graham has some. it's made clear that he's a absolute dumbass who constantly feels that people don't like him because, as he puts it, he's a man of faith. And then you have Daniels, whose whole character thing is that she loses her husband, the original captain of the expedition, and now slowly has to be the second in command, and then come the new captain as the body count rises. But that's pretty much, well, Danny McBride actually gets perhaps the best characterization and most grounded characterization in this film. But all of the rest of these characters, they don't really exist here. And the situation is so bad that even though we are basically talking about handful of human characters, when the carnage starts, it's impossible for me to actually remember who gets killed. Like there are two notable deaths here. There is the first guy who gets the alien spore plant seeds into his ear canal, and then later on when the xenomorph attacks in the field at nighttime scene, there's that one guy who gets his jaw ripped off and gets killed that way. And both of those guys are characters who I need a bloody cheat sheet just so that I can remember who they actually were. Because I have no recollection who these characters were, where they were, and nobody even mourns that the guy who gets his jaw ripped off.
No.
Even the characters in the movie forget that guy existed and is now dead.
I often wonder what's the reason nowadays that directors and movies are struggling so hard to make characters that we would emphasize with, characters we would care about, characters that we just know and love, like Ellen Ripley. Those kind of characters and those kind of actors and actresses, where the hell are they nowadays? I keep wondering what happened. Maybe we need more Dostoevsky.
I wouldn't be necessarily blaming the actors here, because these are capable actors. And if you need proof for that, just look at, Michael Fassbender in this movie, who basically carries the whole thing on his shoulders, doing a double role here, and manages to actually make manages to make Walter and David feel different characters. So the actors can act, but where I feel the problem lies, it's twofold. That first of all, it is the material. I do feel that. I mean, even Fassbender is struggling with the material here, and almost gets crushed by it at times. The Ozymandias poem moment and the extremely notorious flute scene, perhaps being the biggest criminals to pinpoint. But the second reason why I do feel that the characters don't work in Covenant is because I get the feeling that Ridley Scott does not give a shit. like watching this film, I get the feeling that Ridley Scott is almost bitter, having to make this movie, and to actually give some evidence behind to my theory. That the first thing is how the movie just feels in general. Like you watch some Ridley Scott classics, you watch Black Hawk Down, you watch Gladiator. You can kind of get the passion behind the director's chair, or you watch Kingdom of Heaven, director's cut. You kind of get the feeling that Ridley Scott wants to make this bloody film. You even get that in The Martian, which Ridley Scott has admitted that he was interested in making. So, but I don't feel that passion here. Instead, when I look at these some of these moments, especially when I look at the moment when the xenomorph is being finally shown in the movie, it's like you would think that would be somehow Ridley Scott would somehow showcase the nobility of this creature, the majestic nature of this ultra killer. I mean, it's Ridley Scott returning back to his own beast, the old monster that made him famous and which he also made famous. Mm-hmm. So you would think that that would be a grandiose moment here, but fuck all, like it's like the xenomorphs get taken out so quickly and they are treated so coldly, directorial wise.
Yeah, I imagine like a scene where there would be like this more grand scene where you would kind of reintroduce the xenomorph, protomorph, what have you, coming out of the fortification ship thing. But yeah, like you said, it just kind of casually appears there in the frame.
Yeah, and you would think that in the final battle at the Covenant ship, the xenomorph, you would actually get a proper xenomorph, like chase and hunt, like you get in the original Alien and its ending. But no, it just, quickly runs into the cabin of that truck and they blast it out of the fucking airlock. So, or they open the hangar doors and blast it into space. So it's like, it's a really weird approach. And my take here has been that, or my guess has been, what I've been suspecting is that Ridley Scott, he got his feelings hurt when people in the end turned against Prometheus. And when he was looking at the negative feedbacks that Prometheus started to get after the 1 year honeymoon period was over with the film, he took on the lesson that why people didn't love Prometheus was because there was no xenomorph. And to give Ridley some credit, yeah, that the lack of xenomorphs in Prometheus, that was one of the main points that people used to point at when they criticized Prometheus. But that was not the main problem that anyone had with Prometheus. The main problem was that the film did not produce answers to its own questions, and because the whole plot was centering around questions, the film kind of failed to tell its plot. And and from there it went into the stupidity of the characters and the lack of neomorphs. The main problem was the story that Prometheus was telling. And I feel that Ridley Scott didn't understand that. So now when Covenant comes out, Ridley Scott decides that, you want some xenomorphs. Well, here's your fucking xenomorph. Mm-hmm. Have at it. I hope you choke on it. And the second piece of evidence, and this is more actually concrete, is that when he was speaking Prometheus originally, Ridley Scott was telling on how people were usually proposed to him questions like, why do you want this? Why is this on the film? And Ridley Scott he admitted as much, but he's tired as hell to provide the answers. He feels that he doesn't need to answer the questions, why is this here and what does that mean? But Ridley Scott feels that he has made enough great films. He has 2 or 4 films in the Library of Congress archives. So he feels that he should just be able to create without anyone second guessing of him. And he went as far as state that the people who second guess him, they are either really new or they are borderline stupid. And of course, back in then, this is Prometheus days, so the backlash hasn't yet happened. So what Ridley Scott was talking about, obviously, he was talking about production side. Producers and production assistants and CGI people and stuff like that. People involved in the production of the movies, and those were the people that his ire was directed at. But we now come to to Covenant, and the audience has turned against Prometheus, are asking the same bloody questions from Ridley. Why was this? What the hell did that mean? Why did this happen? What was that? And I feel that, I suspect that much like Ridley was already hating the people second-guessing him in production side, now landing on Covenant, Ridley Scott is also tired of his fans second-guessing him on the audience side. And, coming from Ridley Scott's previous statements, those people who second-guess him are either really new or borderline stupid. So that may also be the way how Ridley now sees his audience.
Look, that's starting to sound really bad. And something that you said there, he's starting to get pissed off at his fans, and he should just be able to create whatever the hell he wants. Kinda could juxtapose that with David's behavior in the movie. The creation and the creator. But Ridley Scott has had now 2 chances here, Prometheus and Covenant. Unfortunate reality is that the audience is gonna decide on his behalf what's great, what's not. Of course, okay, benefit of the doubt here. Time will tell what will audiences think about these movies retrospectively, like 50 years on. Sure.
Yeah, the redemption arc is somewhat showing up already with Covenant and Prometheus.
Of course, the further you get away from Prometheus, the further you get away from Covenant, the more you are forgiving for some things like aliens not really appearing in Prometheus and those things that you might have cared about when you sit at the theater with your popcorn, but that's now in the past. But yeah, 2 shots at sort of an alien movies. This Covenant movie especially, it feels like a film where it's like a random collection of greatest hits, a random collection of Ridley Scott's super random thoughts and concepts that he wanted to get out of his system. But then there was this damn studio. God damn, Ridley, you have to make an alien movie now. And Ridley's like, okay, have at it, like you said. Here's your fucking alien. So you have that side. You have the Prometheus side going, the David android. And you have concepts like David's survival by the end, which is kind of like Ridley Scott wanted to give the downer ending to the original Alien. Now he gets to do that. Now that's off his slate. His original Alien ending where all the humans die. That's sort of what we get here. A few embryos survive, so that's goody.
Yeah, it's more of it's a downer ending. How much is a downer ending would depend on the, Ridley just releasing the script for the Covenant sequel. Any day now. Might be tomorrow, maybe day after, maybe day after that, maybe actually never, as I suspect. But until that moment, we actually don't know how David is going to conduct his experiments on the Covenant ship.
So finally, Henrik, did Covenant answer Prometheus's questions?
Well, no.
No.
Not the slightest. But Ridley Scott accidentally did answer one of the main questions when talking about Covenant. We have been wondering, and audiences may have been wondering, our listeners may have been wondering, like, who was exactly that brave soul who was wondering, like, what was the deal with the space jockey and what the space jockey was? As Ridley Scott accidentally has let it slip, that was nobody. He himself has admitted that nobody was ever asking, like, what was the space jockey? It was the biggest question that nobody ever asked.
It was just Ridley Scott was asking.
It was just Ridley Scott was asking, and that's like, it's funny and it's kind of infuriating if you remember, like, what was the Ridley Scott's side of the Prometheus hype. Like, when Prometheus was coming out, Ridley Scott was going everywhere telling how it's the biggest mystery. Everybody has been asking, what was the space jockey? People have been lining up behind his front door, begging on their knees to finally know what was the space jockey. And here it is from for the horse's mouth. Nobody really was wondering that.
My gosh. Well, we're left with these 2 movies that didn't really get into the story conclusion. Although Ridley Scott was kind of aware-ish, even during Prometheus, that this movie should sort of stand alone. Well, you can argue about that if it does, if it doesn't. Then we have Covenant, and maybe he's a little bit more brave to leave the end hanging there. Maybe he thinks that he can do more sequels. Unfortunately, Prometheus was done on a budget of whatever it was, depends on the sources, 100 million, 120 million budget, and then returns home 400-ish million, which is good. Then we have Covenant, 100 million-ish. How the hell are these movies so fucking expensive? God, like you could have eradicated hunger in Africa for a couple of years with that kind of budget, probably.
Mm-hmm. Instead, you get this one. Let that sink in. Let that sink in, honestly.
God, humanity. Yeah, maybe engineers were right after all. So this was not a success. 100 million budget or so, 200 million or so brought in at the box office internationally. So 2017-2018, the studio goes like, well, Covenant was not what we were looking for financially, but we're still on board with Ridley. We're discussing the possibility of the next sequel helmed by Ridley, and yeah, that in the end didn't work. And instead we're gonna get Alien Romulus, not directed by Ridley Scott, but is produced by Ridley Scott, co-produced. Alien Romulus, which is directed by Fede Alvarez.
Also, if I remember correctly, directed the new Evil Dead film, which also was surprisingly good.
Right, I should really dig into this guy's movies. I'm hearing so many good things.
I have liked his past works, and due to that, I am hesitantly waiting, or hesitantly, interested in seeing Romulus. I do say hesitantly because honestly at this point I'm coming from Prometheus and Covenant, I'm somewhat burned with the Alien IP.
Mm-hmm.
So when the newest teaser trailer dropped for Romulus, I wasn't like, oh hell yeah, I have to see this. Mm-hmm. I was more like, okay, it's coming out. And I would most likely have just, skipped the whole thing if it wouldn't be Alvarez. So it's his past works that now land some credibility for the latest Alien film. And, that is... We are talking about Alien franchise, so that is really sad state of affairs. And in my opinion, tells a hell of a lot of the amount of damage, at least for me, for the personal damage that Ridley Scott managed to create for the franchise and the IP. Like I was the person notoriously who on this very podcast went the hell and the high road to defend Alien Resurrection to the world, and that is still a hill I'm willing to die on. But even that person at the moment is like, okay, new Alien film is coming out. Yep, I'm gonna check it out someday, but I'm not waiting to buy a movie ticket.
Yeah, to be honest, I was excited about Alien 5 prospect when there still were none of this Alien versus Predator bullshit and the Ridley Scott tryouts, or how to call them, adventures, spin-offs. Now it's a little bit more convoluted in my brain. Like, what is the Alien IP? Where to take it from here? Alien Romulus, I watched the trailer, as you do. The thing with water movies still bothers me. Too clean lighting. Everything is too fine-tuned. I'm still not seeing from the trailer characters that I would really be excited about. Hopefully we get to see some really good character build-up in Alien Romulus. Can't say it based on the trailer. True. Not excited as everyone else seems out to be. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I would be happy to go back to some of the moodiness of the original two Alien films. Let's see what's in store.
But talking about Resurrection, during our Resurrection episode, we talked about a lot, well, not a lot, but we did touch upon that film's queer energy and the queer-coded scenes that movie had. And we were kind of two minds about it. You weren't too wild about those. I thought that they were nice addition into that film, and were kind of into alien movies, and it was nice play on the aliens' nuclear family, heterosexual dynamics, and all that jazz. But well, now in Alien Covenant we have even more queer things. We have, first of all, we have an official gay couple, which you blink and you miss them. But well, I watched Covenant in theaters, so lucky me, I got the Finnish subtitles, which pointed out to me that those two were a couple. And then you also got possible, well, extremely queer-coded, perhaps, I don't know, incestual I have a fingering scene with David and Walter. So my question to you, actually, man, how did you now feel about the queer elements in Alien Covenant?
Well, I remember...
Are these better than what we got in Resurrection, or what's your take?
My take is that everyone was laughing when that line, "I'll do the fingering," appeared.
Oh, it was too... Like, I saw it. They were like... It was the opening week for Covenant. It was like... I saw this in Rovaniemi. Okay, it was a weekday. It wasn't a weekend. But it had been in theaters, like, in Finland, like... Was it second or third day that it was going on? It was in the biggest like theater that we had, and it had like 5 persons in it in that screening. And when that happened, like, we didn't have enough audience for that all-out laugh moment, but nobody was taking that. None of us 5 were actually taking that any serious when that happened. I was laughing, and the dude 5 rows beneath me was laughing. I could hear him laugh. And it was like, Jesus.
Like, it's almost as if... What is this supposed to imply, if anything? I'm sure they call it the what you're doing, they're fingering, but it was just funny in the moment, especially with the android sexual moments. The shot that China actually cut out, the kiss between the androids. I didn't think really anything of it. Like, it's happens so often in movies already. But, well, I can say that all these considered, I guess the queer coding was more effective here. Could add also that the queer coding has been an attempt for so long, it seems. Like, I just realized this, was it yesterday? I was looking at some of the shots of the original Alien that just were left on the cutting room floor. There's a scene where it's Ripley and... what's the other lady that is... I want to get out of here. Lady.
Was it Lambert?
Yeah, I think Lambert. They share a moment where Ripley is kind of caressing her face, and is there even a kiss on the cheek or kiss on the forehead? So that, and there's also a moment where Ripley asks a really random question, like, "Have you had any sexual things going on with Ash?" I guess she's asking it just to know if this guy's an android or what. But that was a weird moment that happened.
So basically, all that weird face touching and who I need to fuck to get all of this ship moments in Resurrection, where they were actually homage. You know, to the deleted scenes from Alien. Movie is more meta than I actually gave it any credit to.
God damn.
Yeah, when Entrant, are we going to finally get the redemption arc for Resurrection? Hashtag redemption for Resurrection.
So it's all the suppressed sexuality of Ripley just coming out in Alien Resurrection, right?
And now in the Covenant, unfortunately the funniest way possible.
The performance pedestal. I think it's time for quickies.
For my end, in Prometheus episode, I do think I may have mispronounced this name. I may have been talking about David Fassbinder.
Yeah.
Yeah, my apologies to listeners, but bloody hell, I'm not going to hard to learn Hollywood actresses' name. They get paid too much money for me to actually feel humble enough.
Our Splendor, what have you?
Our Splendor. No, real name would be Michael Fassbender. But that's my number one choice for Covenant. But already made a hell of a good performance in Prometheus. In Prometheus, I gave it to Numi. Was made facing much stiffer competition there. Now in Covenant, it's just Fassbender show. And good for it, because as mentioned, the dude carries this movie on his shoulders, and he makes a really good performance. Does a double role here, and manages to make both of his characters distinct. So, Fassbender is.
Yeah, well, I would almost like to play a devil's advocate or be a little Ridley Scottish and just throw something random here, but like James Franco, but yeah, Michael Fassbender.
James Franco, I must admit, is the best in-movie YouTube video of the film.
Yeah, like if I would carry some animosity here, like Ridley Scott seems to do, guess I would choose something else than Fassbender, but let's go with Fassbender. What worked?
Well, Walter David scenes, they do lead up in some interesting questions, like the discussions that those two guys have. When it comes to the whole question, can an android love? And is it love? Is it duty? When the whole David realizing that he is gone bit insane. All of those moments, they lead into good contemplations and good questions. I like those. And I do think that I do kind of enjoy the third act of this film when the movie finally picks up its pace. For me, the third act would be around the time or the last third, basically, last fourth of the film. I like the last fourth, when they are, escaping the planet and the xenomorphs start to show up. I like that stuff.
Well, I will commend Ridley Scott for trying to apply lots of world and mythology around this quest that I'm not interested really to see, this whole who created the xenomorph aliens premise, or whatever you want to take as a central theme. Absolutely not something that I'm interested in exploring. And yeah, he was threatening to make 3 sequels to Prometheus to explain all the ins and outs. I guess in worse hands that would have been very plain and surfacey, but at least there's all these at times pretentious or portentous backdrop around it. Maybe more interestingly, what didn't work, if we haven't mentioned everything already.
Well, I will save the summary for the would you recommend question.
Okay.
But I would like to give a teaser. Basically, or the rest, or the preceding movie until the last fourth or the last fifth of its run time.
What didn't work, I'll just quickly mention that AI in itself, it's an interesting concept to tackle. Androids are an interesting concept to tackle, and the whole, especially now that we're dealing with the whole sort of, if it's imagined or not sure, crisis with the whole AI getting out of hand here. So AI is an interesting concept. It's just that Ridley never gets to anything interesting or original with that. In this movie's capacity anyways. Describe the film in one word.
Fumbling.
I'll just go with that portentous. Kind of pompous and pretentiously weighty. Complete the sentence. You really know you're watching Alien Covenant when
your Alien sequel, prequel, spin-off thingy wears into Fassbender fingering his own flute while in the audience a small CGI newborn alien is waving its hands and doing a little tap dance number with a top hat and cane.
You really know you're watching Alien Covenant when several things happen. Danny McBride is floating in space fixing solar sails, and David Android has a love affair with himself, and the director Ridley Scott gets scot-free.
I see what you did there.
Did you like Alien Covenant, Henrik?
No. No.
Oh, God.
Never liked it.
Yeah. Remember in the theater I was interested in leaving the theater, but decided to go through the experience. Never know what Ridley Scott might be offering you. So, just to give him the benefit of the doubt, would you ever rewatch this film?
No. With Prometheus, I'm willing to actually check it out a second time, but Covenant is stretching it too far.
Yeah, it's like this somehow the ambitiousness, the passion. I'm not finding that here. Like the whole structure. I remember them having some little trouble in the editing of this film as well to make it feel like it's not jumping from location A to location B, i.e. between the chip and the surface in a way that would be distracting for one. Would you recommend Alien Covenant?
From my end, the answer is astounding no. Absolutely not. In my opinion, Covenant is the film, and to harken back like our discussion about Resurrection, we thought about the whole question: does that film have characters, and are the characters likable? We disagreed on there, but and I defended Resurrection, and I liked the characters there, but I feel that Covenant it barely has any characters. As mentioned, it leads into a problem where people are dying and you don't know who they are. And at times, even the film fails to acknowledge that the characters have died, which is surprising with such of a small cast of characters. Technically, this movie is okay. Like, the cinematography offers you good shots. Acting is good. The material is against terrible material. Like, there are some technical aspects that you can enjoy. Mostly good visuals. It does have some good moments, especially good discussions. You mentioned the AI topic, which seems to be the sweetheart for Ridley here in this movie, and it does lead into some good pondering, some good discussions between Fassbender and Fassbender. Mysteriously or curiously, whenever Scott himself talks about David and Walter, he always refers to them as AIs. He doesn't talk about he often does not talk about them with their character names, and he does not refer to them as androids or robots. He talks about AIs. Like, for example, in the commentary track, he makes when he's spectating his own movie, he's making statements like, that punch would kill you and me, but these guys are AIs, and it's really weird. But obviously, yeah, the AI thing is Scott's sweetheart in this movie, pretty much the only thing that he's, in my opinion, interested in Covenant. But those discussions are not enough. And in my opinion, the movie still fails to actually provide any answers to any of the questions proposed by Prometheus. So even though this movie does not end up in a cliffhanger as bad as Prometheus was, where it just summarizes quickly its main questions and I'm still looking for answers. This doesn't do as grievous mistake, but rest assured, no answers are to be found in this movie. In my opinion, that means that Covenant itself as a movie is mostly unnecessary. Especially now that the sequels are not happening, so this plotline, the plotting of giving, David the alien embryos and these 2,000 colonists to experiment on, that actually doesn't lead into anymore. It doesn't lead into anything except just a major downer ending. And since it doesn't answer the questions, I do think that the film is unnecessary. And also, the biggest gripe that I have, the biggest problem I have with the movie is not the character stupidity, it's not the bad characterization, it's the fact that this movie is incredibly boring.
Mm-hmm.
Unfathomable newsfest. It is so... it's a compound effect of everything that is wrong with the film, like the lack of characters and you understanding halfway through that the answers are not coming, and the film waiting for too long until the carnage properly starts, etc., etc., etc. But it's like, I remember when I watched this one in the movie theater, I was actually excited to see this. I was hoping to get the answers, and the movie posters promised us xenomorphs and all of that stuff. So I was excited to go into the screening. And then as I sat there, I just found it ever the more hard to actually be mentally engaged with the movie. Yeah. I didn't fall asleep, but my mind just kind of started to fall asleep and started to turn off. My eyes were open, I was awake, but I wasn't intelligently following the movie. I was dropping off from the experience. And the only thing that I remember walking out of the theater was the migraine that the movie has caused me. And that's a problem that I still have even today, watching the movie for today's episode. I no longer, I don't get the migraine. But I get I start watching Covenant, and at some point my brain just starts to shut down. I start to kind of fall off the wagon with the movie, and I kind of even can't watch the movie on one go. I'll have to watch it on 2 sittings, which is not a runtime problem. I have watched longer films. Hell, I binge-watched the Satan Tango, and we did that. But this, it's just somehow, it's so incredibly boring that I just can't stay focused on this film. And that is the biggest accusation that I can throw against Covenant. The second biggest is that no answers are given to you. So if you haven't checked it out, just don't waste your time. It's a kind of actually a blessing in disguise, in the sense that I've heard the accusation that for some people Covenant has ruined the original Alien, because they kind of can't watch the Alien without remembering the possible canon implications that Covenant presents to you when it comes to the question, where do the xenomorphs come from. it's a blessing in the sense that, first of all, I usually forget the whole Covenant existing.
Mm-hmm.
After 3 weeks, I've seen it. But it's also a blessing to see these guys in the sense that Covenant is such of a mess as a narrative. It doesn't know if it's a prequel or if it's sidequel, what the fuck it is. And it still doesn't explain what was that xenomorph mural in Prometheus. So if you have seen Covenant, rest assured you don't actually have to take Covenant's answers as canon to Alien, because Covenant itself even doesn't know what canon it is. So that's the only saving grace that I can find from this movie.
Right, would I recommend Alien Covenant? We're still collating. No, but it does enough. It does enough, in a sense, Prometheus and Covenant both, that we don't need all the answers, in my opinion. It's kind of like Scott proposes that, hey, you don't need your stinking answers. I don't need to answer all these things. Just do my thing and you watch the movie, deal. We don't need all the answers through. And some of the best movies leave some things hanging open-ended. You could argue these two movies do it way too much.
And they leave everything hanging.
Yeah. It depends, again. Guess what kind of framework you're willing to put on. It's kind of like... I wanted to emphasize this in the Prometheus episode a little more. The Prometheus thing that you could point out that since the Prometheus, it doesn't give you any answers, you have to provide the answers yourself. And that's exactly what Lindelof intended and invited you to do as an audience member. So that is why you have to build it around some kind of context, whether it be baby Jesus or something else. But it's not like an argument for the movie either.
No, in my opinion, that's always been an argument against a movie.
Mm.
That is like that argument, like Lindelof's opinion is my main problem whenever a director comes out and states that I left in my movie a lot of unanswered questions because I want the audiences to make their own truth, or I want audiences to connect the clues. Because Lindelof's statement is a smoking gun level of evidence about the fact that whenever the director says that, it doesn't necessarily mean that there are answers or that there are enough clues. Because obviously the bastard himself didn't think it through deep enough. And to me that is like... Listen, I'm fine with not answering all questions. I'm fine with you leaving, things on open-ended. I'm fine with you asking, basically that you making a movie that is a puzzle and asking for your audiences to figure the puzzle out. All of that is fine in my books. Go ahead and do it. But what I can't stand is if at the end of a puzzle the answer is that the creator of the said puzzle didn't come up with a solution to that puzzle.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that is asking way too much. It tells that the creator didn't care enough to figure his shit out. And now he's just hoping to scapegoat it with the audience's backside, just by playing the, you make your own truth game. And that means that the audience can never actually land on a complete answer. They can't ever fully solve the puzzle because the solution does not exist. So in the end, all you have is theories and nothing more, because nothing concrete exists.
Yeah, you can't just launch an avalanche on the audience and say that, hey, try to pick up all these snowballs and make sense of it. Something like that. Because you can leave things open-ended, but that's only if there's like a logical web of breadcrumbs to follow and put it together in one way or another. Not that here's a bunch of shit, just figure it out for yourself. I don't know what this is.
Amen.
So, but I had the same issue that you had. But it's more of a movie issue, but the dropping off at the theater might have dozed off even a bit. I don't remember anymore. But it was like it was supposed to be this grand mission. They land on this alien foreign planet, and I'm supposed to be interested in where this movie is heading. Somehow I wasn't even a little curious what's gonna happen to these guys. Where are they headed? What's the big mystery? And I have seen Alien Covenant maybe like a month ago as a part of our let's run through the Alien films with my partner, and for this episode specifically I rewatched the film again, but now with the 2x speed, I admit. And even then, I especially when watching with the 2x speed, I noticed that there is so very little story to tell in this movie. The first 45 minutes, not much happening there. There's also the thing that you mentioned that these movies, Covenant and Alien, somebody would have Alien ruined in their minds because Covenant did this and this. For me, these movies are so far apart that it really doesn't bother me. And like you, I just switch Covenant off from my brain a couple of days after this recording has happened.
Did your partner actually stay awake watching Covenant? Like, can he actually remember what the hell went on in this film?
We didn't really discuss Covenant much afterwards, but he seemed to be kind of intrigued about the whole Fassbender character. Yeah, good on him. And yeah, that's the thing to watch in this movie, if anything.
Yeah.
Well, I guess at this point, would it be time to put the films in order of preference? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's actually going to be quite hard.
Yeah.
At least for me. I have my I have two cases here, or two spots that fight extremely hard. The first one would be like which is my first and which is my third. Those are going to be tough fights.
Okay. For me, I have no trouble with the third spot. But the first two are actually so damn good that it's a tricky one. In a way, James Cameron made Alien what Alien is today.
James Cameron basically built the franchise.
He did.
Like, as the franchise exists.
Like, honestly, on one day, I will put the first one on the first position, and then on the next day, I will put Aliens on the first position. And like, Aliens has that quality where you can watch that movie at any time. I think it's still like maybe both movies are made expertly. Both movies are fantastically built. The other is more action oriented, where maybe we are these motion addicted beasts, and therefore Aliens is something that I can more easily watch than the first Alien. I'll just put Aliens as first one today, and then I'll go with the original Alien. Then I'll go with Alien 3, and then it gets more interesting. Fuck, no it doesn't. Resurrection, Prometheus, Covenant.
Okay, Prometheus was surprisingly low on your list. I would have guessed that it's Alien 3, Prometheus, simple as water at that point, and then the fight would be perhaps, between Resurrection and Covenant. Like, which one is worse?
Yeah, I don't know, still Resurrection, with all of its goddamn problems and the general atmosphere that I really don't enjoy in the film. At least it's still in the original storyline in a sense, and I like the order of things that are still somewhat there. Even though it's taking the whole story into quite the ridiculous notions of the whole Ridley clone. But And it's the end of the original storyline for obvious reasons. Where do you go from there? There's not much to go there, except unless you would have taken the aliens to Earth, which they were planning. Didn't happen. I guess because Alien Resurrection just wasn't a strong enough movie to be tied into whatever would follow that. So needed some kind of a rejuvenation after Resurrection. I like that Alien Resurrection is still moderately uncomplicated compared to what follows that.
Yeah, on my end, first of all, I run into the exact same problem as you do, with almost with the same resolution. Like for me also, like which one is it, Alien or Aliens? And it changes every given day. Like you mentioned, Alien is a really great, atmospheric, creepy, survive the monster horror film. Aliens is really great, creepy, space park action film. And when it comes to the legacy, both of them have incredible legacies behind them. Alien is basically the film that, we have to thank for the entire franchise and the IP altogether, but while Aliens is basically the blueprint for the whole franchise, especially outside of movies. So it's really tough pick. Today I feel like Alien first, Alien second.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you, tomorrow it may change. My number 3 is similar type of battle between Resurrection and Alien 3. I like being one of the heretics that actually do quite like Resurrection, and I know that that's an opinion that most likely will get me fired from the official United Film Critics Club. But hey, what can you do? It's kind of similar type of case as with Alien and Aliens. So like Resurrection is more action oriented, gun them down monster movie, and Alien 3 is more keeping in with the DNA and the spirit of Ridley Scott's original.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Scott got the first place, so let's get Aliens-esque sequel, Resurrection, the third place. My fourth place, therefore, would be Alien 3.
Wow.
Even though it got way better video game adaptation than what Resurrection got. And my fifth and sixth, Prometheus. I'm all in this high philosophical questions type of shit, but as mentioned, I just can't forgive the movie the fact that the answers are non-existent. But at least I can repeatedly watch Prometheus whenever mood strikes me. I can't watch Covenant. I just like I may press play, and before 45 minutes are in, I'm already like zoned out. And then I perhaps zone back in when the xenomorphs show up and the violence starts. But Christ, like it's almost like excruciating, really boring film to watch. So most definitely Covenant is my last. Like hell, if we would compete with we would go as far as like also counting in the Alien versus Predator movies. I don't know, like. Covenant is better than Requiem, but I don't know. The first AVP might even kick Covenant's ass.
Yeah,
like it's not like I'm not saying that AVP, the first AVP, is a great movie, but at least I stay awake.
yeah. Sometimes those are so small things that affect you. Like even a shitty movie can be like Covenant can be infinitely improved if there are just the proper play with sound and play with music at the key points. But there's something really sleepy about how the whole Covenant plays out.
Yeah, that actually makes some of even perhaps trashier entries in this franchise. Well, for you that might be Resurrection, or like the first AVP film. If nothing else, perhaps that can work as a lazy Saturday. Get a group of friends together. Get the sodas, get the popcorn. Let's watch a stupid movie and kind of laugh at it, kind of an experience. It doesn't mean that movie is good, but you can have a good experience with it in a right group. But with Covenant, I actually can't say that what type of group I would actually subjugate to that film. Like I can't say Covenant working as a stupid evening fun movie either, because like I said, I can't actually imagine a person who stays awake through it.
Masochists.
Yeah, and perhaps your partner, in which case, send him my best regards and, I don't know, treat him a nice dinner for his sacrifice for the human race and exceptional stamina.
Hey, great idea. Yeah, that's funny. Ridley Scott, who has publicly stated that he doesn't think much of Alien vs. Predator movies as an idea, and that's completely fair.
That's absolutely fair.
The sad part is that it turns out that the Alien vs. Predator, like you stated, might just be the more entertaining and even possibly a better movie than Covenant is. And then there is that I get the feeling that Ridley Scott hasn't really bothered to even watch the sequels. Did he watch maybe Aliens and then gave a hell of a critique about that film? And then, even more interestingly, at some point was working with James Cameron reportedly on what later became to be Prometheus. So I guess they solved their differences there in some way. But looks like Ridley Scott is not taking too many notes from the Alien sequels. James Cameron opened up the whole alien mythology to and kind of widened the scope on what Alien is about, introduced the Queen, whereas Alien Covenant doesn't point to the direction of existence of Queen Alien in any way. It's just Michael Fassbender, David, toying in his laboratory and in hopes that something turns out. What turns out is the eggs, but apparently there is no queen, as far as we know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's further in the cycle of development of the aliens in David Lab.
Yeah, perhaps. Who knows if we don't get that sequel?
Well,
but we did get that extremely short and actually quite shitty VR experience, Alien in Uterus.
So I've heard.
Yeah, that was garbage also.
Oh damn!
I don't recommend even that experience. It's 3 minutes in really bad video quality waste. A movie that it can't even manage its own tie-in advertisement media. So
it's almost as if sometimes the spin-offs and merch and stuff like that appears in conjunction with the movie that they're promoting. It's almost as if it's often cheapening the main product if you get a chance to experience this extremely directorially maneuvered mastermind products that apparently is the VR product.
Yeah, it most definitely is. I would even go as far as to say that so also are the YouTube the pre-videos that also exist for Covenant. Like also, I once again also checked out those. Didn't like any of them. Like, okay, yeah, the Last Supper one, kinda, it finally gives some characterization to the characters of this film. The most characterization that these guys get. But, mostly, in my opinion, pretty pointless. And I can't understand, like, why, once again, I didn't understand why they cut them off and put it on YouTube in Prometheus. I can't understand why in the hell they did it now on Covenant also.
Well, maybe some thoughts to close on. In one interview, Scott stated that Alien Covenant 2, as it was called back in those days, would focus even more on the androids and AIs, as opposed to xenomorphs, as I already discussed. What does Ridley Scott think he's doing here? And this quote, "If you really want a franchise, I can keep cranking it for another 6. I'm not going to close it down again. No way." End quote. Well, he was forced to close down the shop. And maybe that's for the best.
Perhaps. But then again, Ridley Scott has enough own money that he could actually, if he would really want to, he could actually just bankroll some type of version of the sequels from his own pocket. Or strong arm Fox into financing, the rest of the sequels. I get the feeling that Ridley Scott has just given up.
It's almost as if Fox has also given up, or nowadays Disney. Like, I don't even understand how this is possible, but Alien Romulus was originally scheduled to be released on Hulu, but then switched to a theatrical release before the filming began. Wow! Well, what the hell? Alien Covenant didn't do so bad, though. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Made a $100 million movie just the last time around, and now planning basically direct to video. Are you okay?
Well, that is the streaming landscape these days.
I guess it is.
You can't understand what the hell is going on there.
Yeah, well, changing times. Alright, I'm out.
Okay, until next week. Well, next episode, dear listeners.